Blowing in from the Windy City, it's time for JW Fusion with your hosts, James and Wendy B.
Welcome to this week's broadcast of JW Fusion. I'm your co-host, J.H. Calvert Barnes, and I'm here with the awesome, the magnificent, and amazing Wendy B., who is 100% right so much to this very day.
Look at God.
Girl, you
Look
just,
at God.
you just too much you.
Thank you, darling.
You are amazing.
Thank you for loving me for that.
How could I not love you?
I'm just saying, I appreciate it.
Not loving you would be like water not being wet.
Okay.
It's impossible.
Look at God.
Fire not being hot.
Thank you, baby.
Winter not being cold.
Oh, we know about it. Yeah.
I know. Baby, we have an amazing guest this week. We have an awesome guest, and we are so honored to have her. So please introduce our guest.
And this woman right here is a powerhouse, passionate powerhouse for what she does. And we had a chance to meet before, and I just fell in love with her ministry, her cause, her personality, and her passion. This is Dr. Tanya Williams.
All right.
We got
welcome.
Dr. Tanya in the house.
Did we connect with her through Evan?
Yeah.
Evan has hooked us up.
Okay, Evan. Shout out to Evan.
Yeah, Evan's he's got a show coming up next year.
He does.
Yeah, so
I'm excited about what he has going on.
Yeah, he's a powerful guy.
Yeah.
But
well, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
We're excited for people to understand and know what you do and the why behind what you do.
Yeah, the why is huge.
It is.
So
why don't you tell it? How did you get started with working with and having a passion for the differently abled community, as you call them?
I do. I am very passionate about our young people in particular. It seems that I've been able to combine my gift with my passion, with my purpose, and then embrace the anointings that God has put upon me.
Oh, anointings.
Yes.
I love
awesome.
it.
That is
I love that.
amazing.
That
I
is
love
cool.
that. Yeah, that's
amazing.
awesome.
What is your gifting?
Well, my gifting is a couple of things, which again is the blessing of God when He can combine the things you're passionate about with your actual purpose. Sometimes they're two different things.
Yeah. I'm glad you said it that way.
Yes. So I do work with our differently able. I work in education, and I also work in legal.
Okay.
So God has been able to combine those things, make a formula just for Dr. Tanya to be able to reach our people and our caretakers of our differently able and our community with the special abilities.
Wow. And that's huge. I know for me being a caretaker myself, you don't tend to think about yourself. Your energy, your day-to-day, your hour-to-hour, all your thoughts are, what can I do to help this person have their best lives, or what do they need to keep going? So we get worn out. So what do you do for the caretakers that you know that helps them continue doing what they're doing?
Well, I do a multitude of things. Oftentimes we're having conversations such as this. We're doing workshops. We're doing collaboration. I'm sharing resources. I'm making referrals. I'm granting platforms. I'm allowing them to access funding because it takes money and resources to do many things.
Yeah.
But it also starts with the conversation of acknowledging, along with knowing that sometimes we need a little extra help. We need to share the stories when we're ready, and the respect of that.
It's difficult for some people
It's
to tell?
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
So you do have to have a gift to get people to open up like that, where there has to be a level of trust, in you, not only in you personally, but in you professionally, to risk that vulnerability, and so that is I would go so far as to say it's a gift of compassion that you walk in, which is amazing, because compassion is the one element in Scripture. Whenever you see that word compassion, it was followed by miracles every single time. And so by you having that gifting, you're working miracles in people's lives.
Wow.
You're working miracles in their
Just
lives.
even being a listening ear a lot of times is helpful. I know for me, when I was a single mom, I had people who loved me and I knew it. I have family who loved me and I know it. But sometimes I'm just like, you don't want to talk about it because you don't want to bring that person down. You don't feel they're going to understand where you're coming from. So to have someone who is listening and understanding, because you have, like you said, you've dealt with it, you have the experience, you have the resources available, that has to help that person feel just a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. And that's so interesting how you make that point, because coming from a world of business, which is what my bachelor's is in, business, so we're taught to market and, do all of these things.
Yeah.
I end up going into teaching, fell into it, education, teaching business.
Okay.
That was my zhush, was comfortable.
Okay. Yeah.
Didn't quite like the young people as much, but God worked on me later on that. And falling into education, I didn't need to be taught to be nurturing, which is innate in many of us.
You can't teach that, yeah.
You can't teach that.
That's
You
It
important
is a
to
class
say.
in the education
Yeah,
program, but
you have to be open to it to understand
exactly.
it. So that's powerful that you said it that way.
Exactly. And working in education arena is not only about teaching, instructing, facilitate, coaching, it's also about learning.
Okay.
So as an educator, as we teach and we mentor and impart, the important part is, are you willing to learn and are you learnable?
Yeah.
That's interesting
Wow.
that you went from business, which most businesses today are based on what I call a finite construct, meaning that the mindset is it's me against you. It's there's no
Right,
spirit
it
of
is.
cooperation. There's a spirit of competition, strife, stress, push, pull, battling, marketing battles, sales battles, And then the infinite construct, which is the one I believe God ordained, is one that is not based on me against you. It's me against me, to be my best me, so that I can cooperate with your best you. And together we are phenomenal. We cooperate and do more together than we could ever do individually. And so that's what you do. Basically, when you moved away from business into the differently able community, there's a cooperation that has to happen there on your end, on their end, on the resources end, and suppliers and so forth. There is a spirit of cooperation that has to happen, or it's not going to work. Is that correct?
It is, and we have to be comfortable in what our gift is, along with what your purpose is, and that comes with the fortitude of other things. But picking up from the educational arena, I end up pursuing law. I always had an interest in law.
Okay.
Analytical mind. So I did pursue that arena, and I ran away from all the children and said, I'm leaving education. I'm going to work in law. I'm good at it.
Yeah.
And where did I end up? Juvenile court. Back with the
wow.
babies.
Yeah, they
and
called
needing
you
that
back.
educational component. So I end up spearheading. It's so interesting. I end up spearheading an educational unit within our juvenile court, which is working with DCFS, foster care, juvenile justice, which is delinquency kind of component, along with our caretakers, foster parents, biological parents, our communities, etc. So that's when I finally put my hands up and said, all right, Lord.
It's all about the youth.
It's about my purpose, so what am I supposed to do?
Yeah,
So at that point, he told me, you're going to combine those two, and you're going to go forth. So that's what brought me here today. I was able to gather all that information, bring other expertise to the table with attorneys, all of the higher echelon, the movers and shakers in Cook County, if we will, and then be able to do my time there. That's what we always call it, do your time there. But my main focus was always to complete my assignment there, because I knew I wasn't being there forever, on time and in time, and be able to move forward. So I always focus on the assignment, not the job.
Okay.
Get what I'm supposed to get, learn what I'm supposed to learn, share what I'm supposed to learn, which takes a lot of humility
Sure.
It does.
Sure
and
it does.
patience,
Sure
because it took 10 years.
But you grow so much from that.
Exactly, and I was able to exit with all of those resources, all of those, the networking, all of the partnerships, relationships, to be able to bring them back to our community and be that liaise for us now. And I'm very excited about that.
Isn't that something,
exciting.
how God
Wow.
takes us through life? I mean, I look at what we're doing here,
Yes.
and when the opportunity for this radio show came about, I never thought when I wrote my first book that we would wind up doing radio show, television shows. I have a show that comes out next year, Shattered Ceilings, based on my new book. Wendy's show start filming its third year in 2020.
Yeah.
And it all started from the book I wrote, from the interview I did, and the one of the owners at the show, he invited us to have a program, and I'm like, I don't know about that, you know. And I used to have a recording studio, a music recording studio, because I'm a musician, and I knew how to do all this stuff, but I never thought about combining radio and video and being able to do. I didn't know how we were going to do this. This show does not look like it did when it started.
Yeah,
it's a whole. It looks totally different.
Yeah, it was. It was. Yeah,
yeah.
It was.
It is, and it's
different.
Yeah, it was different.
Yeah, and my point is that you never know how God is going to do things, you know. And that's another thing we decided to do. Our show would always honor God, always honor our Creator, as opposed to going into intellectual things, which is good because God is intellectual, or science because God is science, you know, or economics because God is an economic God. You know, and we wanted to acknowledge him because he is all things in all things, you know. And it's amazing how I'm listening to your story, and it's exciting when I hear the synergy of your experiences coming together and forming another entity to serve humanity.
Yeah.
That's powerful, because I don't think you didn't see it from the beginning, did you?
I did not.
But it's not for us to see, though. And that's
No,
the thing.
because if we did, we'd mess it up.
Yeah,
if we see it, we'll mess it up.
people don't
And it'll mess
understand.
us up.
Yeah, it will. But what people, I don't think they see that you got to take that first step, because we don't know what's in front, but God knows what's down the road.
Exactly.
And you hear a lot of people saying, "Well, I'm gonna. Next year is gonna be. On Monday, I'm gonna." When the kids grow, you know, they have these list of excuses happening before they feel they can take that first step.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, like you, had you not written your book, where would we be today? Had you not let that book, that baby, be birthed?
Yeah.
That's huge. And if you hadn't, okay, let me see where this takes me. You know, you just got to have that childlike curiosity, like, what if?
But you know, babe, I think that's true of many things. There are many things that people have prayed for. And like Pastor Rob said this morning at church, he said, and it's simple, but it's so powerful. He said, you can pray for things, but God uses people to bring that thing to your life. And when you remember the scripture, Luke 7:38, that says, give, 6:38, it says, give and it shall be given unto you. Pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Shall buffaloes? Nope.
No.
Shall pigeons? No. Shall doves? No. Eagles? No. Lions, tigers, and bears?
None
no.
of those.
Shall men give into your bosom? So it's other people that are a blessing to us.
Yeah.
You know, and when we realize that, if a person decides to disobey and say, I'm not doing that, for whatever reason. Let's say if you have a class with someone and God has told you, I want you to do this for that person. You decide, I'm not doing that. No, because she thinks she's something.
Oh, God, don't get me started. That's a whole other show.
He thinks,
Lord.
he thinks, and they decide to disobey. They're missing their deliverance. They're missing their blessing. And then God's got to get someone else to do it, because he's going to get it done.
But what's nice, and what I love that you said, Dr. Tanya, is that you are open and humble. You have that humility to know that you bring some things, a lot of things to the table, but you know that you're probably going to get something from it, and you're open to receiving that.
Correct.
Because I always believe I can learn something from anybody. I don't care who it is. I can learn something because I'm open. I love to learn from people.
Yes.
Plus, I want to learn from your mistakes so I don't make them out. You know, you did them already.
That's the best way to learn.
I don't need to talk. I'm going to hear what you have to say. So
Yeah.
you said you had completed your assignment in the juvenile courts. Can you explain what that assignment was? What was your goal? Because you said you knew it was going to be a short time that you were going to do it. What was the goal with that?
And I think also faith plays a big part. I had strong faith, which I tried to encourage, especially our young people and the caretakers of the young people, that just
makes a
little
difference.
bit of faith. And
It makes a
sometimes you
difference.
need to be reminded of that. I call it, you need to be provoked Sometimes we need to be provoked,
Yeah.
in a good way, of course,
Right.
to our purpose. And oftentimes in working in my arena, sometimes we don't know what our mission may be, but we know what the
Right.
message is, or vice versa.
Sure.
So when you're surrounded by the people that God have put in your circle for that season,
And respect that that's a
respectful,
season.
and respectful of it, and receptive,
Yeah.
then it's an amazing thing, and that's when the release comes. In particular, with our young people, which Mr. James has mentioned, that is my passion. We meet young people on all different levels. And when I mean young people, it's not necessarily elementary age or high school age. I usually just generally mean anybody younger than me. So as we get up in age, and everybody younger than you is young people.
Yeah.
So I try to pour in and also be able to impart and encourage them to let those gifts come out, let those gifts begin
That's
to
awesome.
cultivate.
Sometimes
is
that's
so
all
awesome.
people need is a little bit of encouragement, someone to
Yes.
believe in them.
Yes.
And give them, like you said, give them just a little push, like you can do
Exactly.
it.
And it's a testimony.
It is.
But one of the things that I was taught in court in particular, because of course in court, they're decision makers. They're,
They have to be.
they're making life decisions for
Yeah.
other people.
Yeah.
I was taught humility in that component. I visited young people, our clients, which they call in court, all over the world. So we would visit them wherever they were. They're court involved, which means we had to go to where they were. That could
Wow.
mean institutions, that could mean
Wow.
penitentiaries, that could mean good places like college and
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
homes, relatives, non-relatives, etc. And which you all mentioned, you have to have that ear to listen, and that is not just a gift, but it's also a process, especially when you're educated. You talk all the time. You in front of the class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to listen, and not only to what's being said, but I had to learn to
Yes.
discern
Yes.
what's not being
That
said.
body language, that
Yes.
vibe, the tone of voice.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot of things that go into that.
Exactly. So with those experiences, that has taught me a great deal and helped me in my own ministry, and helped to fuel me to be able to make that exit plan. And once God released, it was time to move on. Not even knowing I go into business and consult myself,
Yeah.
which I've been doing over 20 years, just not structured. And someone poured into me to say, it's time.
That's
Create your
awesome.
own organization.
That's huge.
So listen, why don't you talk about that, your organization?
Well, my organization, which is a LLC, it's a consulting agency, if you will, which culminates combines the education component, which is on any arena. Educators teach about something, whether it's how to do your hair versus how to clip your toenails, or how to prepare for a career or life,
Yeah.
style changes, if you will, or prep, along with that component of business and the legal component. So it's a unique combination. People are like, how does that go together? But once we have the conversation, as you and I did, they say, wow, that's amazing. All of those variables, all of those ingredients, I call it, to make an agency or organization, which is, I just help people to help themselves.
Yeah.
And help to also broker those resources.
So what client would come to you in your consulting business? What type of client would that be?
I have varied clients. Some are nonprofit, some are for-profit. I generally work in our urban arenas, and urban doesn't always mean chocolate, but it does mean passionate about the things that affect us.
Okay.
And us
Okay.
meaning our communities,
Sure,
whatever that hour may be. I work in varied cultures, so that's another show, as we say.
Yeah.
That's a topic for another show.
Yeah.
But that's good, though.
It is.
It's
it is
very good.
And I do work in our differently able. That is my platform. That is my passion. It has to be centered or attached or addressed to some component of that.
Why is that? Why do you have that special place in your heart for?
I really do.
For the community.
My son has special needs as well, for more of an academic and more social component, who is now 30.
Okay.
Wow.
He's a 30-year-old
Yeah.
young man, grown
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
And also, my passion is for the caretaker that is charged to oversee the person with the special ability, whether it's prophetically or whether it's crisis mode, or it's for planning and preparation. So those
Okay.
are 3 different lanes.
Okay.
So what is the diagnosis for your son? What is-
He's a specific learning disability.
okay.
In particular, he's also a cancer survivor.
Okay.
Yes.
That blessing.
Wow.
So that would be a medically complex kind of
Yeah.
lane, if you will, as far
Yeah.
as the academic is concerned.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
So what do you take from your own experience as a caregiver, mother,
Okay.
to a differently abled child, especially at that cancer portion, because that's huge and it's emotional.
I mean, that alone.
That
is a
alone
weight.
can wipe
Oh my
you out.
gosh,
Just
yeah.
trying to, you seeing your baby go through something. So how do you take that into what you do with other kids? I mean, you can relate with them, I'm sure, which is huge. Like, oh, okay, she's been through, she understands a little bit, you know, even if the diagnosis is not the same. So how do you take that into what you do?
As a mom, of course, we wear the mom hats for not only our
Always.
own biological babies. I wear them for all my babies. So I also am cognizant and also respectful of the fact that my journey may not be someone else's
Right,
journey,
Right.
but there are oftentimes similarities.
I
Sure.
agree.
Sure.
And it's different. Everyone's story is different. Everyone's journey is different.
Okay.
Everyone's on different tiers or different levels of what they're going through or what they're about to go in. And I'm thankful that I had the experience, because to me, one thing I always say, you can't always infiltrate a system that you've never been in.
Oh.
You can't infiltrate a agency, platform, systems. We work in systems in the kingdom. So, but if you're in it, and all of us aren't charged to be in it, you have a unique experience. You also have a unique gift, a unique spirit, if you will,
Sure.
spirit, recognized
Yeah.
spirit.
Yeah.
And to me, that gives me leverage.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know? So I can see what you're talking about. I know that spirit.
Yeah.
I know that behavior.
Yeah.
I've walked in it. I've been delivered from it. All of those things play a part, and that's how you're
yeah.
assigned.
That's powerful because I was a drug dealer before I became born again, and once I became born again, I started going to drug rehab centers. And when I could talk to the guys about where I came from and how God changed my life, how I was homeless, I lived in a car for the whole summer after I became born again, and all the money that I made selling drugs, I didn't have any of it because
Exactly.
there's a scripture about that. I didn't know there was a scripture that takes care of criminals.
Wow.
There's a scripture. God has a word in Proverbs that talks about money that is ill-gotten it won't last, it won't sustain, it won't
Wow.
endure. Riches obtained wrongfully or immorally will not be maintained. And so when I went to the rehab center, all of those guys there, all of them had millions of dollars from drug sales, and but none of them had any of it. They're mandated there by the court. If they don't stay in treatment at this place, they're going to maximum security prisons.
Wow.
You know, and one particular guy I've told you about, his name is Henry Abraham. Henry was such a blessing because he became born again. Now, mind you, going to this state-run facility, I could not talk about Jesus. I couldn't talk about God. I could only talk about the principles of the word and how they impacted my life.
Exactly.
They would get kind of upset with me. Well, James, why don't you just come out and tell us? I said, because
Can't.
if I do, they're going to throw me out of
You
here.
can't come back, right?
But I had conversations with them, you know, on the side when I wasn't officially there. And this one particular guy became born again. I ran into him. We wound up at the same church. I didn't even know he was going there. And found out he had written at that time about 3 or 4 books. Wow. He was in the process of starting an online Bible school. Now, this is a guy who used to run drugs between Chicago and New York. And when he got arrested, he had an army duffel bag stuffed full of money
Wow.
when he got arrested.
Wow.
And he had money, so he was able to buy his way out of going to prison and go to the rehab center.
But he used it wisely.
He did, but the thing I admired about him, he took that same ability that he had for criminal activity.
Because those people are smart.
They are brilliant.
They are brilliant. It takes us in certain intellect to be able to maintain and grow that
And
level.
influence.
Yeah.
To be able to influence people.
Yeah.
And that is so amazing because I often work with our youth and community activists and people that work the hood, if you will, people that work in the hood. And I always believe that God allows us to train in the natural for a spiritual purpose. So
Yeah.
that does not
Say
mean
that
that
again.
while
Say that
you
again. Say that
are
again.
in the obstacles, I call it obstacle course of life,
Yeah.
He'll allow you to do those things because those are the best foot soldiers.
Say that again. What did
Say that again.
Say that
We're
statement.
trained in the natural
Yeah.
for a spiritual purpose.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Wow, that's
of
awesome.
course, I don't know all the scriptures and all of the, things
That's
to
all
use.
right.
But I do know the message. And the message is God uses people in the trenches. He allows you to be in the trenches for just enough time to
Yeah.
get that knowledge, to get
Yeah.
that intellect, to have that experience, to have that
Yeah.
antenna, that radar. Then he pulls you out, cleans you up, prunes you, cultivates you, all the things that he put in you anyway. We're using them for a different purpose,
Right.
which
Yeah.
he allowed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he starts to prune us, and then he sends you back into that same arena
Yeah.
for a different purpose.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
I
For
agree.
a spiritual purpose.
That is
Yeah.
So you're on a
powerful.
kingdom assignment at that point. And I think that's just amazing. And one of the reasons why I received that and I accepted that is I'm from the hood. I'm from Roseland.
Okay, I'm from Inglewood.
Exactly.
I'm
In the wild hundreds.
just out-
But
what am I, 3 blocks from Inglewood?
I don't know. You are.
Yeah.
oh, wow.
I was right. I
She's
walked.
68th Street.
Exactly.
It was close enough. To the
Right.
hood,
So
yeah.
I already had that kind of, I'm comfortable in our arena.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable
Yeah,
in our
yeah,
neighborhoods. Even though I had the exposure, which I teach our young people about exposure and experience to be elsewhere. But I always remember where I came from,
Yeah.
but not always what I was doing, where I was at.
And that's the thing. It's interesting you said that exposure.
Exposure.
Because I learned how to type at 12. So I was always kind of put into a corporate arena when I was growing up. But that gave me a different view of the world outside of my square in the hood. And a lot of
Yes.
times people don't have that opportunity. So they don't know anything but where they live.
Yes.
To be successful, you have to have the big flashy cars, and then what you see on TV, you have to have the fancy clothes with the labels, and so that's how you rise. And there's so many different ways that the Lord has for us to rise and to serve Him, but you got to be exposed to it.
Yeah, and there are different models for success.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
people who live in a house the size of this studio. Their whole house is
Yeah.
the size of this studio.
Yeah.
And they view themselves as successful because that's what they desire to do.
Right.
And they're comfortable.
And
They're
that's so
comfortable.
good.
They're happy.
That's what's important.
So the model for success is whatever you say it is.
Not what someone else
It's
tells
not.
you.
It's not what.
I mean,
what,
don't you want a bigger house? I mean, it's little.
Yeah,
No,
but people
I'm fine.
people see your house and say, "Ooh, you got a beautiful home." Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Our home is beautiful. Our home is
Our
beautiful.
home. It's not
We're not
about
talking
the
about the
building.
building. We're not
Right.
talking about the structure.
Right.
We're talking about the interior, the spirit
Yeah.
that's in our home, the peace, the joy, the
Yeah.
love that's here. That's what we're talking about. How beautiful our home is.
Mm-hmm.
My home in Inglewood, our apartment, it wasn't that big. We had one bedroom. We had, like you, we had our bedroom was the
I thought
dining room.
Everybody slept in bunk beds in the dining
Yeah.
room. That's what you do.
That's what
right?
we did. And in the winter, back when they had real winters,
Yeah.
we slept in the kitchen with the stove on,
With
with
a
a pot of water.
Gotta keep that
was our
humidity.
humidifier.
Yeah.
We moved the kitchen table back, and we had 2 rollaway beds that we slept on.
Wow.
Me and my brother slept on one. My mother and my sister slept on the other.
Wow.
And that was our winter getaway.
He called it the winter. But you got to be creative when you're
Yes.
thinking about things.
And that's so important how we talk about it, exposure and also experience, which
Yeah.
is what I try to bring
Yeah.
not only to our special ability arena, for them to have that exposure, for them to have that experience. Whether you like it or whether you don't know unless you try it.
Right.
You don't
Yeah.
know unless you've been exposed
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah, that's true.
So in that arena, we try to expose and allow them to experience, whether it's something that they don't care for and say, no, thank you.
Yeah.
But at least you've tried it.
Yeah.
At least you've
Yeah.
seen it.
Yeah.
At least you've heard it. At least you've read it.
Yeah.
And you can say, be more, I call it well-rounded or more culturally acceptable, if you will, to say, yeah, I heard of that.
Ooh, Dr. T, we got a commercial coming up. We'll be right back.
This book is the story of Jameson Harold Donovan, who lives in the city of Sussex Falls. Feeling trapped in his dysfunctional marriage to his wife and a stranger to his own children, thoughts of suicide dominate his waking hours. Jameson discovers he was selected before birth by the Almighty to receive quasi-angelic abilities. Between the ticks of the clock. You're listening to JW Fusion with your hosts, James and Wendy B.
And we're back with our amazing guest. We're going to call you Dr. T. I love that.
She's, I just love, a lot of times people get to a certain status in their careers or what they do, and they're more intellectual than anything else. And they sometimes lose that compassion or that humility. And what I admire about you, and what I noticed when we met before, is that you have that humility still locked. It hasn't wavered. And that's important. So can you speak to people who are moving up or have that desire to move up, how to maintain that and what benefit you get from remaining humble?
Well, that's a power pack question. But I think it depends on just your own personality as well. Sometimes we don't have range, again, where we're thrust into some of our positions, whether it be professionally or socially or whatever arena we may be in. Those leadership roles are placed upon us, so you think you have to, have a certain status and a certain, upright, if you will.
Yes.
So it depends on kind of what's already in you.
Yeah.
Some people are not necessarily have a, humble bone in their body, period, and they don't want any.
That's true.
But it's also about life. Life teaches us sometimes those things that seem to make us so pompous are the things that can, really bring us down as well.
I was about to say, if you don't have it, life will hand it to you.
And we don't always pay attention or are mindful of those things until they come directly to our doorsteps or those that we love. So I always try to stay at the pulse of what's happening in the real world, if you will, and try to be encouraging. And until we can get to that point, I always say, let's just learn to listen. And sometimes that humility will play a part. It doesn't always exhume the way we think. People may be humble, but don't always act that way. But they do have a humble spirit. But it doesn't necessarily always, it's not portrayed as such. So it really depends on the purpose. But I always say, try to connect ourselves with those teams and those organizations of the people that are the foot soldiers. They are on, the ground level. If you can't be the person going out there to save lives, because you just can't do it, you won't do it, you don't know how. Be the person that supports the person that's going out there.
Absolutely.
So good.
And do your part.
That's awesome right there.
That's so good.
Some
that's
people
how I
don't
try to, encourage where they are.
That's awesome because everybody can't be the voice. You have to have someone that is supporting the voice. You have to be,
and that's an important role.
It's vital. It's vital.
Just because you're not in front of the camera doesn't mean that it's not important.
Think about it. How many movies would we see without the cameraman?
Right.
How many movies would we hear without the audio people? How many movies would we have the opportunities to go to the theaters and see without distributors? That person you said, the starring or the director or the producer, they're not the only.
They're a piece of the puzzle.
They're a piece of the puzzle. Every piece of the puzzle, just like our body, the body of Christ, every member of the body is vital. I don't know about anybody else, but I don't have one part of my body that I can do without.
No,
I want all
everything.
of mine.
I'm gonna need everything.
They say you don't need your appendix, but I don't want anybody going in there cutting it out.
Right. It's there for a reason. I'm just
Yeah, maybe
wanna
we
hold on
use it,
to
maybe we don't. I don't know. It's in there. Leave it in there.
Yeah.
Every part is vital. And what you're saying about humility, the Bible says that when we humble ourselves, we will be exalted in our season or in due time.
Yes.
And when I meet humble people, I love it. I admire it because everything in the world tells you to be puffed up, show how important you are, show how significant you are. And that is not attractive. People resent it, actually. When I meet people like you, when we first talked, I said, babe, you gotta.
He came home, girl.
On the phone.
We were on the phone.
He came home like, Tanya. I'm like, wait, what?
Babe,
You gotta talk to
babe,
him. Oh my
wait,
God.
wait a minute.
You know how
Wait a minute.
when kids are excited, they talk fast.
Wait a
like,
minute.
and she
It was
did
this. I met this new kid at school.
Yes.
He can
I
hit.
was like,
wait a minute.
okay.
She can hit the ball over the fence.
And I called you right away. You was like,
You
oh,
did.
I'm like, well,
Yeah.
let me call her.
I mean, I'm
Talk to her.
sitting. I get up. Some days I'm up at 3:00. All right, in the morning to meditate before I go to work. I had been through my whole day. I talked to you all the way home. I'm sitting in the garage with the garage door closed.
And I thought I heard the garage. I'm like, maybe I'm hearing things. Oh my gosh, I was and she is. Oh my gosh, and Wendy, and I was telling her about you, and I was like, wow, let me just.
That is
what's
so
the phone
funny
number?
because that's how I am with my peers, with my young people, with you, Wendy.
Yeah.
When we have something or meet someone, it's almost like some good candy or some good greens or a great restaurant, and you want to share it.
Yes,
and
yes,
you want to share that candy with your
Absolutely.
friends. You say, yeah, that's some good candy.
Yeah.
Try
Absolutely.
it. Wendy's an amazing person, you guys. You have to meet her.
Yeah.
Let's invite her. So already I have people that are lined up waiting
Thank
to meet
you so
you
much.
all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just based on me saying they're so good, they're so yummy. I want to, share them with you.
And once you get that reputation, like she always talk about the good food now, so
exactly,
so you have that credibility.
and that's what I do also with my caretakers. I want to give them that experience and give them that exposure and share these things with them.
Okay.
Oftentimes they don't know about them.
Right.
Sometimes they don't have all of the information they need to know.
Yeah.
It's misinformed.
Yeah.
Or I want to introduce them. If it's not a good fit for them, it's for them to store and be that liaison for the person that I may not meet
Yeah.
or I may not know, but they do.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about doing that.
And that's why with my show, I like to talk to different people because I always say that my journey is, I never felt I had a group to connect to because my children had something that didn't have a cause. I didn't have an Autism Awareness Month, which I think is phenomenal. But I know that me and a few autism moms, we have some journeys that we can talk about that are the same. We have some highs. It's that roller coaster of emotions that you have as a parent of a special needs child. And I wanted the show to be open for everyone. So no matter what your child is diagnosed with, you can look at the screen and tap into, like you said, the resources. No one tells you, okay, your child has this, so what you want to do is go through this. No one is giving you that playbook of
Right.
how to be or what to ask or who to go to.
Yeah.
So you kind of figure it out as you go. But what you're doing is you're collecting. We're doing the same thing. We're collecting information so that I may meet somebody, be like, no, this person is, but wait, I met someone, and this is a person you should get started with. And that's so important.
Everybody can't do that.
No.
They don't have that ability.
No.
Dr. T is a broker of people,
Okay, you are a broker,
and she
girl.
is a broker
Yeah.
of information.
Yeah.
Yes.
And having that passion for it just gives you that little bit more that
It gives
people
you
want to hear. Like, okay, wait a minute.
It gives you an eye.
yeah.
It gives you an eye to
It
recognize
does.
talent. to
And
recognize
that's always
good
my
things.
question that I pose to many people I meet that offer services, resources, information, partnerships, funding, etc. I always ask, how do you meet them, whoever those them are,
Yeah.
and how do they meet you? In other words, how do you find them and how do they find you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
99% of the time, there's a disconnect. So
Okay.
they're looking
yeah.
for people or seeking people that they don't know where they are.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're in the trenches. Sometimes they're
Yeah.
in the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're
Yeah.
at the home. They call it home free places, homeless shelters, home free. Sometimes they're at those places that we used to hang out at or to, and we don't go there anymore because, we've are now saved and sanctified, so we don't go to those places anymore. But God trained you to be in those places. You know that language. You know those people.
Yeah.
And sometimes only you are the person that's sent there with that message or with that exit plan for the people that still remain.
Yeah.
So I think that's just amazing that we have that training, we have that history, that journey, and it's not for naught. You know, many of us are ashamed of it, even with our moms, our foster moms, foster dads, caretakers, etc. They don't want to share the stories.
Yeah.
They don't want to think about what happened before, when the diagnosis came, when the door closed, when the children were taken,
it's not
etc.
easy. It's not an easy conversation to
painful.
have, but it's so necessary because number one, it heals you,
Yes,
and then it's going to heal so many other people.
exactly.
When I started talking about page passing, people that I thought I knew, I lost a son. I'm like, wait, what? What? How do I not know that?
Yeah.
Because you don't talk about it. Like you said, it's painful, and it is very painful to talk about burying a child. But to talk about it gives that child's memory wings. What good that child brought to you. Even through the pain, you can find that good that loved one. You know, I know people who've lost loved ones, and they're still in that space. They can't move from that space.
Yes.
And so I am able to talk to them because had I not lost somebody, I'd be like, you don't understand. Well, I do. I do.
It's very difficult sometimes to let go of that memory because there are our bodies are funny. Our limbic brain, as I always say, our limbic brain creates a emotional cocktail. The things we call emotions, we think it's just physical, or it's not. It's chemical. Our limbic brains create endorphins. They create serotonin. They create melatonin. They create all these different hormones, feel-good hormones, stress hormones, cortisol, oxytocin. When you're in love, all of that. Your limbic brain does all of that. All right. So when you have a loss, the memory of that loss brings a feeling of connection with that lost loved one. So people don't want to let it go. So instead of moving forward and living in a present future reality, which means they have to depart from those past memories, they don't want to do that. They will go back around and go back through that experience in their minds. And your brain says, okay, we're experiencing this again. Let's send those same chemicals that we sent when that loss took place, so that person can feel exactly like they did when that person, just before that person left here. And there is a feeling, an emotional, I don't want to say high, but an emotional journey or experience you go through again. And you re-experience that thing every time you talk about it, every time you bring it up, every time you look at the shrine that you set up in your house for that lost loved one. You know, and they relive it, and that's how they stay connected to that person. But what it does is it stifles your growth, because when we have death is a part of life. It's part of the cycle of life.
Is. And it's not fun.
And when but the thing is,
what's going to happen.
It's going to happen, but
Yeah.
you got to be able to see the entirety of your existence. What are you here for? You're not here just to have a child, live a life, and die. You have a purpose. There were things. You have a gift. You have a gift, and the gift has a requirement attached to it, an obligation that God put in you to serve humanity.
Yeah.
Now, there are people you have touched with the Wendy life. Dr. T, there are people you've touched in the many things that you do in the legal world and the care world, all in different areas that you operate. What if you didn't use your gifting? How many people would have gone untouched? How many people's lives would have gone into darkness without your light? So we all have an obligation, and when we have a difficulty, when we have suffered pain, we suffered loss, we've suffered failure, okay, I learned from that, and we got to take that step past that dark spot and present future reality and begin to envision what it is we're desiring to do, what it is we've been assigned to do.
Yeah.
And think beyond yourself.
And I think of it kind of a different way. because you so deep. You know what I'm saying?
But he's speaking of
I
trauma,
know he's
which
no,
is
but
similar.
see, the way I think about it is a lot of times, not all the time, not even most of the time, people lose someone and they haven't had a chance to do something, to say something to that person. And so I try to live my life keeping my hand on people that I care about. Every time you talk to me, I don't care if we've talked 3, 4, 10 times a day, at the end of that conversation, I love you.
Yeah.
Not love you, because that's different to me.
Yeah.
I love you.
Yeah, that's different.
And so with Paige, as painful as it was to say goodbye to her, I left it all on the floor with her. That little girl knew I loved her, that I altered my life to be with her as much as I could. And I'm the same way with my boys. I'm the same way with James. I am the same way with the small circle of friends that I have. Hey, how you doing? What you doing? You good? Yep, I'm all over the place. It's a crazy day. I just want to put that word in and say, hey. That's important.
It
so
is.
when because I told Matthew, who's 18, we all die. Nobody gets out of this life alive. So what I need for you to do is understand that, and that tomorrow's not promised for anyone, and children are on that list. I'm on that list. So I'm going to love on you. And Matthew does it. He's like, love you, Mom. Okay, boy. You can be angry, and I'm still going to say I love you.
I think you're about the only one Matthew will say that to.
Yeah. Because he knows I require it. A lot of people pass. We had just had an argument. I had just cursed that person out. It's not that serious for me. I don't care what you do. I love you. I'm angry. I'm going to need a few minutes to not choke you out. But I do love you.
Yeah.
So that's important.
It is important. And a lot of things you all touched on the mental wellness, I call it, of those caretakers or the people that care for others. And also the platforms that we build ourselves, which I mentioned to you in regard to a mental health organization that only allows for memberships for either the person that suffers the challenge or the person that cares for those that suffer challenge.
Talk about that a little bit.
And no one else can really be a part of that organization, like myself. If you don't directly either have a mental illness or you take care of somebody that has a mental illness, you can't be a part of this organization.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we appreciate your interest, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'm really working with that organization to build a new platform in which those that want to help, or whether they're clinicians or community activists, et cetera, have that outlet to be able to still partner, maybe from a different perspective, to share.
So why is it so important to have it built that way? Just asking, what is the benefit of building it that way? You have to have a mental illness, or you have to be directly linked to someone. What is
that
the
was
benefit
pretty much
of that?
their mission or their vision for the organization. NAMI is one of those. So that's NAMI is the acronyms.
Okay.
And you can just Google it. But in particular, there are other organizations as well. But you have to, I guess, have some platform, some eligibility requirement. How do you join us? How do you link up with us, et cetera, et cetera. There are many other organizations to actually, partner with. But sometimes we seem to only build our access to us based on this particular roadway. So you can only come in one way, you can only go out one way.
Okay.
So no other outlets.
So it's like forming community, basically.
Similar, yes.
Yeah, it's
Similar.
a community. This is our club or our.
I think that's a
Right.
great platform, because we don't talk about mental illness.
And then there's
enough.
there's a level of comfort because whoever's there,
everybody here,
there's no fear
no
of judgment.
Yeah.
Correct.
You know,
And you've
it's
experienced it.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
your journey. You
Yeah.
understand. But
Yeah,
I know
that's huge.
sometimes when I talk with my caretakers, they have that same, that same response, that same psyche. If you haven't lived it, if you really don't know it, if you're not taking care of someone that has a, special ability.
You can't, though. And that's not a slam against that person. It's just that you don't understand.
Correct.
Just like if someone is going through cancer, I'm going to be as compassionate as I can. I'm going to help as much as I can. But I don't know the experience of having cancer.
Correct.
And so someone who has, they're going to be able to get in just a little bit deeper than me, because that person like, okay, now you know what I'm talking about. It's just,
Yeah.
I think it's just a human
You're right.
thing.
And that's so funny. Just one quick story. I have a good friend who's a high school buddy. She cared for her mom. She's only child, like I am. She cared for her mom, and her mom had a mental condition, a diabetes or something, ended up going blind. So she was that primary caretaker for her, took her to Lighthouse, did the whole bit. She was there right along with her. Her mom ended up on dialysis as well. So she was, again, that caretaker, the person helping mom. She was the only child, so, that gets to
Yeah.
be her charge. And a few years later, she has those same struggles now. So they're both blind.
Wow.
They're both on dialysis.
Wow.
So I'm going like, wow, you were all exposed to this. You were, a part of it. You went to Lighthouse. You know the whole gamut.
Yeah.
But she is so not motivated to get those same services for herself that she was for her mom. But it's a blessing that she was there with her mom to
Yeah.
see the training,
Yeah.
to help mom with the training
Yeah.
at Lighthouse
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
she was a scene person. And it's just, I'm still just really digesting all of that. I just saw her last
Yeah.
evening, and it's just amazing. I'm like, this circle you're in, and she's a very spiritual person, and I'm just knowing there's now a new journey and a new assignment for me, even in that I
Yeah.
bring to my own ministry, my own organization,
Yeah.
again, which takes me back to my book passion, which people have asked me to write a book. I'm like, about what? What can I put in a book?
You
I
have
don't know that
several.
much.
You have several
Who cares for
books.
the person who cares for the others?
Yeah.
Who does the person that is leaned upon lean on?
Yeah.
So I think
That's a
again,
book title right there.
that's a whole nother
And
topic
that's-
for another show.
Yeah, but that's a necessary
So
book.
that's why I focus so much on our caretakers or
Yeah.
the people that are charged to care for others. Because oftentimes I want to tell them, they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Who take care of you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and then more importantly, you have to take care of yourself.
Yes.
We're so-
Self-preservation.
and I think a lot of with women, we'll take care of the world while we are breaking down the whole time. But if you put yourself at the top of that list and be your best physical, mental, emotional self, you can better pour out. You're trying to pour from an empty cup, basically.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And at some point, you're
With
going to
no
break
refresh,
down.
no
Yeah,
refill. And
yeah.
many of us do suffer in silence,
Yeah.
and we live in layers. And
We don't want
and
to
that is my
complain.
new
We don't want
charge.
people to, so I'm thankful for what you do for the
Thank you.
caregiver.
You know,
Because that's important.
I gotta say this.
Oh, my.
I just heard you say 2 different book titles.
Yeah, she has several.
We
babe.
suffer in
Tell her.
silence. We live in layers. Who
Write that
takes
down. Go
care?
ahead. Write that down.
Who takes care of the person who takes care of
the others?
Of the others.
Yeah.
Those are 2 amazing books that would be a blessing to people who are in that community. It's amazing how reading a book, especially audiobooks,
Yeah.
especially audiobooks.
Which I do, because I don't have time to even.
That's okay.
Yeah,
You get
but
it
it's,
in.
I mean,
Yeah.
just think about it, because the fact is, you as energetic as you are, you can't be everywhere.
Yeah.
Your books can go where you can't.
As far as yeah.
I mean, because your body gets tired, your mind gets tired. You take what you know, you distill it, put it in writing, put it in an audiobook, and let it go. Because
And how do I do that, Mr. James? Because
Uh-oh.
that's one arena that I've yet to be able to, I guess, connect with. So many authors, so many speakers, book writers,
Well,
etc.
I mean, if you don't have the time to be able to do a book yourself, you can hire a ghostwriter.
Yeah. I was about to say.
You can give them audio, you can give them notes or whatever, and they will write your book based on the information you give them. Then you can also, when you're ready to publish it, you can try to get a publisher. You can publish it yourself.
Self-publish.
There are also hybrid publishers out there that will work with you on publishing your book. If it's a good book, they're not so much concerned about it being a bestseller. They're concerned with the quality of it. My book I did with Christian Faith Publishing, and they were great at getting the book published, getting me worldwide distribution. They did a lot of different things. The next books I'm doing differently. as opposed to the previous times. So there's several different ways you can do it. But I think given the giftings that you have and the information you have, you could do booklets. You could do books like 15, 20,000 words that are very short, easy reads that are books of instruction for people who takes care of the caretaker, who people live in silence or suffer in silence or live in layers. People are doing certain things, but they don't know what it is because no one's identified it. They haven't had the opportunity to meet Dr. T or someone like her that has that insight. But there's a book about it, and you can put that advertisement out there. Here's a book for people who deal with people and with different conditions, different situations, and there's a booklet there that can help them.
I see.
You know, and what it does, it puts you in places you could never go.
And I go many, many places. I
Yeah.
travel the world because I train and I teach with some of our unions, our educators, our city, county, state, et cetera, healthcare, child care, and
Yeah.
et cetera, along with. But my passion is always our young people, again, and our caretakers who are sometimes young people. We have young people that are
Yeah,
parenting.
Sure.
So that's a whole different gamut. And then some of us that have, I work with a lot of entertainers, so they always say, I have a passion, I have a song inside me. But some of us have a story inside of us.
Yeah.
We all have a
We
story.
all have
Yes,
a story.
Yeah.
that we're willing
Yeah.
to tell in the
Yeah.
season.
That's
Yeah.
the difference.
Yeah.
And how do we do that? How do we find that workshop? How do we connect with that person? How do we get that information or get the sponsors, et cetera? And memorializing that information is key. Like you said, put it in writing, get
Yeah.
it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is always my goal, to have my legacy be sweet,
There you go. And it's,
to have
that's
the
what it's all
residue
about.
to
It's
be
about your
to be
legacy.
positive
You know
and
what?
to be
I would-
prolific.
let me say this.
Yeah.
Let me
Yes,
say
sir.
this. Right now, Amazon has, I believe, decided they want to dominate the publishing world. They have a platform called KDP, which they will publish your book. The fee is minimal. It's very minimal. I don't remember what it was, but it wasn't a lot of money. As much as you going out, getting a book edited and all that. That's what it costs, is getting it edited. But beyond that, they will publish a book, put it on Amazon platform, and do a lot of different promotions and so forth, and get your book in ebook format, which is Kindle. And so that's one way of doing it. It's really, it's simple, but it may not be easy, but it's simple. And it's just taking the steps to do it. My point is that the world has moved into the place where books are being digitized. Everything is being digitized. And there's a pattern to things being put into a digital format. So that's something for you to think about. And I mean,
It's something for all of us to
all
think
of us
about,
to think
because I'm
about,
sure
because
people
we
that
all
are
have
listening and
stories.
watching
But listen, give your
want to
website.
know that.
Give your
Yeah.
website. Give your website so people can get in touch with this incredible gift that we have in the earth. What is your website?
Well, my website, which I wrote it down so I can remember because I have a few. I do two. One is the consulting, of course, which is twmsconsulting.org.
Okay.
But I also have a Legal Shield website as well, which you can Google. And that's where I do our legal education.
Okay.
Legal
Okay.
education regarding caretaking,
Okay.
regarding all the other
Okay.
things that we need to know. I do have a workshop that's coming up. I do at least every other month with my Nevada, Las Vegas team.
Okay.
So that's going to be at our Hyde Park Lakeshore Cafe
Okay.
right here in Chicagoland area. It's going to be January 14th, which is a Tuesday. It's usually after work, so it's 6:30.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
invite anyone to contact me to get a VIP ticket to come on in and get the information. And we also give that platform for businesses, organizations to network and partner right there on the spot.
Okay. Well, listen,
Thank you
that's
so
our
much
show
being
for
on
this
the
week.
show. Thank you.
And we'll be back next week. Allow God's grace to flow in your life as a mighty river.
Be blessed, everyone.
The Wendy Life. New episodes every second and fourth Friday on the Road to Eternity channel.
Thanks for listening to JW Fusion with your hosts, James and Wendy B.